Excellent. Hello, world. This is another session of Naji Temple, where we investigate cases of the human condition and the meaning of existence. Today's topic is going to be from myself. It's going to be about personal expression, which is something that's come up in a variety of ways from different members amongst our practitioners. And so I think it's really good to get into. And it's particularly interesting to the Naji because we kind of need it in order to power a lot of our abilities. But it's essential actually to every mojo. Every mojo needs to have it to peak properly, and that's why this will be a three-part series today, then also next time in Nijez Temple, Romantics Temple, and then after that in Intermediates Temple, Interpreters Temple. Okay, so Ben is going to be doing a recitation for us, and we're looking forward to that. And that's actually a great example of personal expression, and we'll just kind of let the conversation go from there. I'll set the scene afterwards, and then we'll just jump around. All right, introductions. I am Naji Coach.
I'm Naji Mitchell.
I'm Naji Ben.
And this is Naji Glenn.
All right, so I'll hand over to Ben.
Okay, so I'm going to be reciting Addicted by Bliss NSO, and I've got the whole song, so. I was born in the 80s with that summertime love, then I changed the whole game like whatever I'd done. Out the gutter I come, to touch the bright sun, and from the highest heights, motherfucker, I jump. Free in the sky of belief I can fly, ain't no telling what they're selling, man, they're cheap in disguise. Keep this in mind, I keep on my grind, I can do any way I want to do, and bitch, I'll sleep when I die. Explosive, ferocious, get down a showbiz. Power to the people who have freedom in their focus. I hope this helps you when you're under the thumb, when you feel like nothing can save you, when you feel like jumping the gun. Stop, relax, and remember, even in the worst weather, you'll find a way to cross it. There'll be brighter days, honest. So get up, get out, get something that's on the real. Forget what you were taught and show these people how you feel. Like, who are you to tell me how to live my life? 'Cause I won't give this up. These are my shoes, my view, my cue. Say I do give a fuck. I jumbled my words a little bit there, but whatever.
Keep going.
Since a fetus, explored life's subtle secrets. From my fingertips to my unique double helix, I can see history. I can see the past lessons. It's your right. Never be afraid to ask questions. How can every religion claim to be the only one? How can they preach love, yet fight each other holding guns? I think the golden sun might be able to shed some light. I'd rather preach peace and knowledge to defend our rights. These leaders in suits tell us to fight for one side. You think they got their sons and daughters on the front line, not down for war, but down to get an education? We're all equal, yet they push synthetic separation. But in this matrix, I won't be failing to make it. This is my cosmos, baby, space sailing with Sagan. I heard it's not where you're from, it's where you're carving your view. I heard you don't have to wear a suit to argue the truth. And so, who are you to tell me how to live my life? 'Cause I won't give this up. These are my shoes, my view, my cue. Say I do give a fuck. But pretty soon, I'm a booing and I'll be alright. Every day's another chance to ignite, 'cause I'm addicted, I'm addicted, I'm addicted to this universal feeling called life. They spoon feed, but I won't be taking that sedative, 'cause my thoughts are way too precious to waste on the negative. I keep them critical yet positive to break the chains. Every dawn is a new chance to make a change. Think about all the energy flowing all around us. We project it, we get affected. This is profound stuff. Earth is my garden, and I grew from it. I pay the youth homage because I know their views on us. Can you read between the lines of the news comments? Find over land just to take some fuel from it. I guess oil boils down to some cool profits. But war, what is it good for? Really, who wants it? Like, who are you to tell me how to live my life? Because I won't give this up. These are my shoes, my view, my cue. Say I do give a fuck, and pretty soon I'm oblivion, it'll be alright. Every day's another chance to ignite, because I'm addicted, I'm addicted, I'm addicted to this universal feeling called life. I almost want to do it again.
Woo! Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Thank you. That was badass.
That was,
That's an experience, wasn't it? That was a
yeah,
ride.
that was an experience. My eyes like, do it again. Because like, but
I tell you what,
when you're in the moment, like,
do it again.
my memory is just like.
I tell you what, why don't you plan on doing it again next time in the Jez Temple, and we'll have Starglow there as well, and probably Bruno, and that'll be another level, and have a chance for you to do it. Sound good?
Sounds good. Because it's like,
that was awesome.
I'm so much more forgetful in the moment, so I'm just like, but I don't know. It still felt really good to do that. So.
It was very, very good to do that.
Yeah.
Very good. A couple things that just jump out. One is that it's a major act of bravery to do it. That's the very important thing. It's actually wisdom and courage. Wisdom was you chose the words. You actually listen to lots of music. There's tons of music out there. You guys have a great selection on the internet and whatnot, on the radio and so forth. But you chose that. That was a good choosing. Those are good lyrics. Those are good sentiments. And then you were courageous enough to actually say them out loud. That's badass. Badass, sir. Jaileen's clapping over here too.
Thank you, Johnny.
So some other thoughts as well that come up are, one, just we could hear it, I'm sure, I know I could hear it, is the nervousness of actually saying what you believe in a way you consider stylish, even with us who are friends, who are Naiji, you've known for years. Think about that. It's scary.
Yeah.
And so but that's part of the rush. And what'll happen is you've just flexed a muscle, and that muscle only gets flexed by doing this kind of stuff. And that's the only way to build it up stronger. Make sense?
Yeah.
So now you'll know this is going to be here next time. The heaviness in your tongue, could you feel it? Could everyone kind of hear? He kind of fought through it. He fought through, I think, 3 or 4 waves.
Yeah, like that was. Yeah, I really did feel like I was playing through it, because what happens is, like, when I say this to myself, I've got it down, but when you're in the moment, it's like a whole new wave of pressure,
Yes, it is.
When some of your memory gets like way worse, you start like thinking that you're supposed to say something, you're not sure if that's what you're supposed to say or not, and you just get kind of, you freeze up,
Dude,
like you say a line really quick, and you're like,
For sure.
So.
And one thing that helps with that is, with any personal expression, is once you sort of have it down, is saying it like in front of us, and then you can go back and you could even edit what it was, like change the words some to make it better flow for you. Because if you're this is where it gets into taking the work and making your own.
Yeah.
Is that you can adjust it after you've done like one recitation. Once you start getting to where you are creating your own work, you're like, well, I'll just make it this way. Maybe that felt better to say that way. And that's it's a great way to discover yourself, first of all. But then also that getting worked up is knowing that you're going to have the nerves on you and pushing through them. I remember, like with Jaileen, I've been kind of working with her for some years now, bring her voice out more and more and helping her. She's always kind of done that, but I've been trying to help with that. And I know that when we actually started just walking in the park and doing our working a song together, a couple songs actually, and we've been working on them. It's been a lot of fun and great and so forth, but just walking in a park and no one's really paying attention to us. People are over there playing soccer, they don't give anything about us, and it means people walking the dog. No one cares. No one cares, no one cares, no one cares. But yet still, there was that weight on the voice. Do you know what I mean? Just being outside. So there's little things that's something you can do to kind of like get used to the fact that there will be that on you. And by the way, you may have heard a lot of artists, that's why they do it. In fact, over time, they will only choose roles or songs or whatever where it makes them nervous. Because that's how you flex the muscle. It's got to make you nervous. Have you heard this expression before? If it doesn't make you nervous, it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
It really is true, because that's how you flex.
You're like burning through fear too, like.
And that muscle gets stronger and stronger than once new challenges.
Yeah.
It has to be a challenge in order for. Yeah, it has to be like you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It has to feel that way.
I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try.
Exactly.
Well done.
Yeah.
Because a couple times there, Ben, I think you almost were thinking maybe should I stop or whatever. No, keep going. And that ability, that's like being like in the storm of life where you're like, should I quit? No. There's no reason to quit. I got stuff in me still. Keep going. Well done.
Thank you.
Another thing that came to me is a vision. I actually have had this for so long. I don't know if it's just something that came from Martian Manifesto or if I saw in some comic or some cartoon somewhere. I don't know. But it's always stuck with me. And it may actually have been from some comic somewhere. Anyway, as happens in these kind of stories, alien species visiting Earth. Some of them are nasty, but some of them are really kind of like better than humans. They're like futuristic, spiffy. And one of these aliens is meeting one of the characters who's going to end up being one of the really cool heroes of the story, but they don't realize yet that they're destined for such greatness. But they do one thing early on that kind of sets them apart. This being that I kind of projected Nexion to encountered multiple humans. And basically, I forget how it was, there's some sort of magical, ritualistic element there that was like, tell me what you're about. And I got to say, most humans, very disappointing. Very disappointing. Most of them want to do like, base kind of activities, or they actually had really stupid ideas. But then she met the one person, and this person, I forget what it was, but they were like a fan, I don't know, some 70s band, and they knew the lyrics to some cool, like, psychedelic, groovy, love everyone, do you know what I mean, kind of idea. And the person, like, stumbled through reciting the lyrics, forgetting some lines, and stuttering here and there. And at the end, he's like, oh, man, I did bad, and this alien creature has really, really high standards. That was the one she approved of. I think it was a female. Anyway, the spiffy alien actually approved because those were good sentiments. Even though the person was like trying to like remember the lines from his Led Zeppelin song or something, I don't know. But anyway, they were trying to remember the lyrics and they were like saying them. But the fact that that's what they went for, when the enlightened alien asked like, "What are you about?" That's where that person's head went. They're like, "What do I think's really important?" and so forth. And they went for that song, and then they actually tried to like voice it. And that they credit for being courageous. Yay. So anyway.
No, that's good.
Yeah, like I've taken. It reminds me so much when I was in speech and debate, because like I like when you're doing that, I mean you're just taking leaps of faith, like you can't worry about like what how people are going to respond. You just have to do it, like.
The polish that that you guys are kind of alluding to there, that the lack of having that Zion V like really nice and clean and like really punchy, that will come as you do it more and more.
You have to get the mat first.
Yeah, you have to like at least acknowledge
and really whenever you're gonna present, like you can't worry about that kind of stuff. Like no matter whether you're polished or not, like I mean you do your best to polish, but like I mean. When you get there, you just gotta do it.
Yeah.
You have to take the leap of faith. It's the bipolar, of the situation.
As you keep doing it, you'll build up stronger and stronger as you keep going from that nigh to V over and over. But it is a leap of faith. But yeah, the first couple, it's going to be kind of like, what's going on here? But the main credit is nigh. You actually knew what the right thing to do was. You chose a right high path, and then G, you went that way. It doesn't matter if you stumble, fall, aren't so cool, but you actually like that's the right way to go, and I'm going that way.
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
Yeah,
very.
And
cool.
then from there you learn how to do it better.
Better.
Yep, for sure. Like what you were saying, Glenn, is definitely true. Like after you do it, like what you said makes a lot of sense because after you do it is when you is when you improve and you get better and. Worry about that kind of stuff. That's really good.
Definitely. All right, so this is a perfect segue into the topic of today, which is personal expression. And Ben just did a great example.
If you excuse me, I'm going to. You can keep talking, Coach, but I'm gonna exit this room.
Gotcha. All right. So we've talked in other contexts about artistic expression, creative expression, and this falls within that. And I was trying to figure what would be a good heading that would capture all of it. I think it's personal expression because that covers any way that one does some kind of activity, specifically to note their relationship to the peak pathway. That's specifically why they do it, and they are noting, they're expressing the experience. Okay. So for Naiji, the creative and often artistic facets of doing personal expression are often very rewarding and appealing for us. But you can do it any way at all. So I'm trying to give some highlights here, and then we'll just kind of jump around. First is that it's the connection between what's going on with inside yourself, above the apparatus, you the apparatus, and something in the world that you can ping on that is of interest to you and your higher spirits. And when you do that, it's the back and forth. Because like right now, Ben, he had something his spirits were interested in, and then he brought it forward. Now he's going to go back to them over the days and weeks and so forth, and they will talk to him about how it went and what they would like to do next to make it more, better. Does it make sense? And that back and forth, it's really good to like dialogue with your spirits. A lot of times, as you know, as Naiji, it can be awkward to be like, I need to talk to people today. That's really awkward. It's very awkward, but it's much easier to have something that like, oh, I need to assemble this such and such for some project or whatever. Like, it's a thing to talk about. Even with our spirits, it works that way. It helps to have a project to talk to your spirits about, rather than like, yo, spirits, I was wondering about the topic of fear. Could you talk to me about that? Like, I don't know, it's a little on the nose for Naiji spirits, for sure. So a lot of times it's better to actually like find a project and like, oh, let's recite this song like Ben did. Okay, yeah. Your spirits are into that. They like that. Okay, what would you like me to do more? You can talk to them about that. Like, what was it you liked about my spirit versus what could be improved? What is he liked about like the way? Because you know, Ben, that you could feel it. I'm sure that you were doing two things there. You were dealing with the technical aspects and the emotional kind of spiritual aspects at the same time.
Yeah.
So all of that, your spirits are going to have a lot of like opinions on. It'll be really good because they're your best friends to talk about that. Then also is what is it they liked about the experience in general? Because there are many other songs to choose from. There are many other kinds of media besides songs to choose from. And then, of course, there's a whole infinite well of goodies waiting inside of Ben to be discovered. And so actually what you're doing right now, you're kind of digging to them. Doing covers of other people's work is a very good way to kind of dig to your own art. But does it make sense that that will give something to talk about? Like, I don't even feel it, Ben. It might take a little bit, but you might be feeling a little bit now. Is it after performance you know your spirits and you are going to need to actually take a little walk or something or have a little alone time to kind of like, you know what I mean, process how this went. Because this is a very charged up ritual.
Yeah, like right now I feel like, I don't know, I feel a lot of energy, but you know, I haven't really processed all of it yet.
But it's going to be good. Can you feel it? You can feel like, you know, where you like, I know I have to process something like you're in a crowd.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in a crowd.
You could hear my voice too.
And so you're like, I'm good. I'm sorry, Ben.
Oh, it's fine. You could hear in my voice too. Like I was speaking like really loudly and like really energetically. I was like, you know, I don't know. I was in there. I was in the zone.
Yeah, you were in there. You were doing it, and that's critical to the personal expression. Personal expression is basically a way of saying, I am here.
Yeah.
I am doing it. If you look back at all the graffiti, all the way back to like ancient cave art, it's basically, we are here, I am here, you know what I mean? This is what we are about. It is extremely just innately connected to peaking. To peak properly for all mojos, that needs to be there. For Naiji, we can actually help a lot of people in this process because for us, our spells just generally don't work at all without that going on, so we need it. But everyone can benefit greatly from this process. And things like stand-up comedy, where you see a lot of ad-serve males and dir-serve females, things like that, they're doing personal expression. They're taking their opinions, and they're putting them out there, and they're making them funny because that's an understood medium for people to get what they're doing and to recognize I'm not just spewing my ideas like anyone. I took time with them. I made something of them.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you do that, you're doing personal expression. You're making a form for what you're about. As Naiji, like I said, we learn a lot from that, and this kind of segues to the next part, which is like the voice.
Anytime you're doing what kind of activity? Sorry.
Any kind of personal expression.
Oh, personal expression. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally. This will be going on. For Naiji, without personal expression, it's difficult to actually know what projects to do or power them without it. And then you also, as a hunter, you kind of want to walk around feeling armed. You're not.
I do.
You're unarmed. As a Naiji, without personal expression at your fingertips for what you believe in and think on stuff, you are unarmed, and feels not good as a directive, particularly a hunter in that way. Okay, so now with that said, I'll just mention that for Naiji also with Ji, there is going to be the vocalizing. Vocalizing is a component that if it's not there, a lot of times Naiji try to avoid it. You really can't. You have to be able to vocalize in some way. If you look at it, pretty much anytime you have to really, all riffs of Naiji will eventually talk themselves if they get, I really need to think on this. So why wait till you're in a crisis mode to do it? It's better to actually get to where does a Naiji go when they really have to crunch something? They start talking to themselves. I mean, pretty much scientists, philosophers, artists, it doesn't matter what they're doing, they'll talk to themselves. The mixed martial art fighters, the Naiji are known, they talk about themselves in the third person and shit. So, you know what I mean? It's just something that we do to feel empowered. So it's good to know that and just work on it all the time, not in moments of like dire need. You won't have it like all the time. All right, that goes with the vocalization. Last thing I'll kind of hand over the floor is the power of words. Whenever you say words, in particularly Naiji, the way that we don't like to say things that they don't have meaning, that comes out in your words whether you know it or not. So the fact that you chose what you were saying, Ben, it had power two ways. One, there was nervousness in you that would have been different if you were just reciting a speech. Because if you were given a random speech, you could just say, well, I'm just technically executing these words, which I may or may not believe in. But you chose these words. That makes them heavy. Did you feel it? You were like breathing heavy on them. It's not like they were like out of shape or anything. It's those words are really heavy to say because you believe in them. You can feel it.
Yeah, because like saying any old speech doesn't make you feel nervous. Like just reciting the Constitution of the United States is not going to make you feel nervous. I mean,
exactly.
Because what you're doing there is you're sharing your headspace. You're sharing yourself. Those are not just
exactly.
It's one thing to be like saying a sentiment that everyone believes in, like okay, like racism is bad, okay. But for you to say it, and the way you're going to choose certain words in order to express that idea, it's going to be your voice that's going to be saying it, and so it's very, very personal to you when you say it like that. So it's artistic, and that's what makes it heavy too.
Definitely. Actually, that was basically going to be it. I was going to hand over to initial thoughts, so we just keep going with that. I'll just close up the one thing I was saying about the power of the words. Is that the words you happen to choose, Ben, classic for Naiji, very opinionated and very progressive. So if you state even monotone words you believe in that are progressive and opinionated, they will cause reactions in the environment. Those aren't words like, oh, blah, 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 I went to the store, such and such, and people can make what they want of that. You're actually saying, this is how things are, this is how they should be, this is why it's like this is why it should go this way. When you do that, you'll be hitting people. And that's another weight you'll be feeling, is that with us, probably that weight was a lighter. The main weight you're feeling was that they're important to you. We lighten the weight that you'll be feeling as you keep doing this, which is that we're Naiji, who actually are pod layer and therefore hold a lot of the same basic fundamental opinions on things that you do. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I can
feel
that.
I was saying, when you go into, say, Starglow, and Starglows would be cool, of course, but there is going to be, I chose this song because I like the energy and you like the stridency of it. You know what I mean? The Nijai Z vibe powers, they're going to have their reactions to it. In this case, I think it's also going to be positive because she's pod layer and so forth. But it is not immediately native. Does it make sense? Because you naturally picked a song where the sentiments you really were like, I like those sentiments. And I don't know if those are written by Nige or Nijai, but the way you delivered them...
They were written by... The people who wrote the song have been Rez Nige.
Oh, okay, cool. So
Yeah.
like I'm saying, even if they had written by Nijai, the way you delivered them... Because every time you start getting nervous, you just kind of like fierced your way through it. And that's just such a Nige way of delivering things. So anyway, long story short is though, as you go out and you were to perhaps do this at an open mic or something, if you go to plays that's very progressive, again, the audience is probably mainly going to be cool. But you never know. There's a lot of strident things you said in there. You know what I mean? And there might be someone in there who's like, well, I don't know if I
somebody
do it.
who, like, you know, is really supportive of the rock war.
Exactly. It just sounds funny, but like, just like say comedy, you start doing comedy for yourself, then you do it for your friends because they share your sense of humor, then you do it with other people from certain demographics who also tend to share that humor, and so on and so forth. But as you radiate out to the full public space, there's going to be some hecklers, some naysayers, some people are like, I don't get it, meh, and you're like, whatever, and you do what you do. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it to the floor. Look, like there's already some thoughts there. Glenn, maybe you want to keep going or you want to jump in. These are just initial thoughts on this topic and what Ben did.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I the way that what I wanted to say was basically it. It's just, you know, personal expression. It's a challenging thing to learn how to do correctly, and or like even to, you know, like you said, courage is it's hard to like build up that courage and speak your thoughts in that very intimate kind of way because they're very close to you. But I mean, it feels really good once you do it. And
I'm curious, maybe get the kind of some initial thoughts here going, Glenn. What was your experience of being witness to him doing it?
Okay, well at first I was just like, go, Ben, just do it. You know, like I was like, yeah, I was smiling the entire time because I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And you know, I was just like, also at the same time, I was very impressed as well because I was like, you know, like it's hard to remember lines, and then to be able to speak those lines in that kind of a manner with that kind of energy, that kind of charge. I was trying to imagine myself doing something like that. It's like, whoa, that would be like.
It's funny because it's like I find that because it's music and because it's like lyrics I really like. It's like and the flow is so good in that song. I found it actually wasn't very hard. It took me like I'd say a couple hours to memorize it at first, maybe like an hour and a half. But on one hand I had listened to the song so much, so that helped a lot. On the other hand, I was really into it.
That's being into it. Oh, you cannot
and
really
the words really flowed well together. Like based on how they flowed, it made a lot of sense that this would come after this. You know.
Yeah. And also, it's not just the words that was being said, but it was also the rhythm and it was also the singing. The singing was like, whoa, that took things to a next level for me because I was like, could I like, you know, like make that kind of a sound, you know, like. You know, the tune and everything, like that's, you know, it's one thing to just like rap and just be like bum 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 bum, and then you can have like that kind of thing, but then to have your voice go up into that high note or then that low note and then just kind of play around with it in that kind of way, that was something that was really like impressive to me as well. So I mean, definitely, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mitchell, I'm curious, what was your experience like?
I mean, obviously, I agree with everything Glenn said, and I can tell that this was kind of a tough experience. Like, there are moments where, I mean, it's very difficult to memorize that sort of thing, and then there are moments like while you're singing it, and then, you know, I know how Nai is. Like, when you lose your train of thought, it can just be gone, or really, really hard to retrieve.
Yeah.
You really have to like.
Even if you did it like 10 times, it's just like
Yeah.
you can just
Sometimes your memory is just it's
like-
very like on
like
and off.
one word like grips up your entire. You pause for like 15 seconds because of that.
But you went through that very, very well. And I was
Yeah.
proud to see that.
Yeah. It's I think it's easier to be able to like remember lyrics on songs because you're able to sort of like I don't know, like you want to remember what you, like when you listen to some music that's like really impactful, then you're like, what are they saying? And then you like really get into the lyrics and you're like, oh, I really like these lyrics, and then it makes you want to be able to like when listening to that song and listening to that person, you know, speak those lyrics to be able to say them in the same way, and you know, like I think that helps you like remember it.
Well, what you're talking about there, Glenn, was actually another aspect of words are power. I forgot about, which I mentioned two of them. There's a third one, which Glenn basically is saying. They feel good to say, and that's because they help you peak. You can feel power. It feels like good quality, shiny power. Shiny power feels really great. And so saying words that when you say them, after you say that one sentence, you're like, that was freaking cool. Do you mean you're like you mean like I believe that? That was cool. Like yes. If you're having that reaction, yeah, that I know Vi's our worst power, and I have really big problems with it. But if you can get
It's
that
such a
going
rush,
on,
like-
oh man, because it's addictive. I want that ride
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster
Yes.
because it's addictive. It's like really exhilarating, but it's also kind of scary. But it's really exhilarating, and you want to do it, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
And, some people are scared of roller coasters, but once they experience it, it's like they want to do it again.
I know. That's so true.
That's a good analogy.
Oh
It's
man.
nice because there's a nice roller coaster for everyone. Everyone's peak pathway, their own unique roller coaster.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, and whatever your polar power is, it's always going to feel scary, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just gonna say something, but yeah, it was like an add-on to what you were saying, Coach, about the like speaking it like it feels good, and it really feels good when you're able to say it like with that kind of energy, like you really were able to bring that kind of energy, because it's not like you're not trying to be like a robot, just trying to say the lyrics. You're trying to say them with like a certain kind of passion.
I want to give like as much of the right kind of energy to those lyrics as I possibly can, given
Okay.
my environment.
That's what gives it that oomph. You know what I mean?
This brings in another important element, both in the wonderfulness of it, but also something to watch out for. First, though, the main thing, which is the wonderfulness, is that's why you have to do it like this, and that's why eventually, Ben, you'll have to do to where you're creating your own pieces.
Yeah.
Because those words, they needed to be said that way. Besides the word, that sentiment. The sentiments, a lot of the ones you were saying, they were words that were very, very descriptive, more than is in normal language. Most people don't, because they were really thought about. They were really thought about, so like every word was chosen for like maximum impact.
Yeah, you
As
can
part
tell,
of
like,
that,
You can
As
tell
part
like
of
the
that-
person who wrote this like spent like hours and hours working on it. Like it's a very short song, but there's like so many words that just like connect to each other that are very artistically written and are very pithy and really say really strong points.
for
So,
sure.
like, yeah.
It's true, and that's again increases the power of them. And then the fact that there is the rhyming and then putting on rhythm, all those are adding to the difficulty of putting it together. So even though it may be only like 3 minutes to say or whatever, 4 minutes, the amount of complexity that went into that is a lot. But then, continuing on, is what Glenn was saying, is also it would be not as correct if they were delivered flat. They have to be delivered up. So when they are delivered, and up can be actually a very like melancholy song. So not up in like a traditional sense, energized. So that if it's sad, it's sad, sad. If it's like happy, it's happy, happy. It's angry, it's angering. It's hyperized. And anyway, as a part of that, it teaches you how it's supposed to be. Because definitely with G Flex Factor, it's not supposed to be flat. And
Yeah.
so that's the wonderfulness of it, is that when you write the words that you first do for your own self, Ben, as you start to recite them, you'll keep editing them to make them better and better and better, so you feel stronger saying these things that you believe in. Does that make sense?
That resonates with me.
Now, the one thing to watch out for is to not let the Xi take precedent of the Nai, in our case, which is that the saying of the words in a charged manner for effect is not the purpose. First, it's the words, the belief. And then as you write the belief, your swagger. A swagger will just start coming with the words, and then that is what it is, and that's wonderful. As I was saying, that's the wonderful discovery of, like, apparently I have to say it with this kind of funk when I say that word, otherwise my spirit's like, you can't just say it, you gotta, like, say it. You know what I mean? You gotta put something on it. And then that discovery is good. But then don't, like, just put funky swagger on things just to do that, because you can get known for it. You can be known, oh, Ben, the way he talks is so cool. And you start, like, the classic artist dilemma, where they basically keep asking you to draw the same picture again and again. You're like, that's not why I do it.
When I've had people say that to me because when I was in 11th grade, like, my English class, like, we'd frequently have, like, plays and shit, and, like, whenever I would read the lines, I would use my vocal inflections to say it in a really cool way, and then I got known for having, like, a really good voice. It wasn't in a bad way, though. I mean,
no, not at all. Not at all.
But
that's good.
It's a powerful ability. It's just, I don't know. It's funny. That's
actually really good to get known to try for having it. As long as the reason why it's there is because, like you did today, you pick songs that you like to work on for good reasons, and then of course all the charisma that's going to flow from that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's something that happens with all Naiji to some degree. Whenever we really are, like, into something and we're really, like, like, we're passionate about something, we do it really, really well, typically. Like, we want to make that thing. Like, if I'm going to clean my room, for example, I'm going to make it, like, the most cleanest room in the entire house, right? I mean, and people are going to be like, whoa! And then, they're going to be impressed by it. But then it's not about, like, that, like, external manifestation of, like, oh, the room is clean, but it's more to be, like, a representation of, like, this is who I am. This is, like, the kind of character that I bring to everything that I do, and it's more than just, like, oh, I want to see you do that again. Like, you should always clean it. No, first of all, I can't do that all the time. No, because that's impossible. Like, it would drive me crazy. I would not have the kind of energy to be able to do that all the time. But also, that was meant to be, like, something for me to, like, express out into the world, I guess you could say, in an artistic kind of manner, like, this is who I am kind of thing. So yeah.
I have some follow-up questions. I mean, of course, jump around. If anyone wants to jump back on anything we talked about already, please feel free to go where you want. But these are some things interesting. Are there anything that you can remember, perhaps from your past influences, where you saw a real-life person or a person from a movie or anything that impressed you? Because this one seems like it was a fairly recent one, Ben. People have, like, something like that they can think of that impressed them from younger days?
Are you asking about? So you're asking about somebody who impressed me from when I was younger?
In terms of personal expression.
In terms of personal
a demonstration of it, like that actually ritual.
Okay.
I'll give a brief instance of myself to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Growing up, I watched lots and lots of movies, and one thing that there would tend to be is there's that scene. In detective movies, it's where they gather all the suspects at the end. In romantic comedies, it's the profession of love at the end against all obstacles, yada, yada, yada. Or, like, the person's going to say why they deserve the job, Mr. Smith. And anyway, they have, like, the moment, and they nail it. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was always just really wowed by that. I'm like, man, normal life doesn't really happen that much. Doesn't seem like it, not unless you trains for it. But in movies, there would be that, and I was like, that's really neat. I want that in my life. And I was very impressed by like all the sentiments that the hero learned through the last like hour and 20 minutes, now in front of the graduating class that all think he's a dork, he's going to like actually say what's what to everyone in front of the girl he likes and ignore everyone else and just like preach it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, that's so cool. Anyway,
I know a lot of protagonists in anime do that a lot. Like they say things that are just like completely absurd to people, but they say it with confidence and with pride. Like when I was a kid, I would watch Naruto on Cartoon Network, and he's like such a. I mean, you can argue maybe he's a Nijai, maybe he's an Aiji, whatever. But like he just says like what he believes in without like worrying about how people are going to react or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he says some pretty powerful and impressive stuff.
That is so true. I've noticed that.
It's
with
like
Naruto.
that's his way. I think he literally says that's my ninja way, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Mitchell?
And he says believe it too. He tells you to believe it.
How about me? For what exactly?
Any kind of like maybe examples of personal expression, maybe even teachers, perhaps in philosophy or anything like that, where you were like, you noted they were able to convey what they were about very well and it impressed you.
Let's think about that.
For example, I'm just going to say, like, kind of reverse engineering. You as an IG, I mean, I've mentioned, over the years, it's just not new, is you actually express yourself very well. So I'm sure that that's something that you worked on, and so I'm curious if there's ever anyone that you're like, I like how they do it. Do you know what I mean? Because it wouldn't necessarily have to be like verbalizing it, but even just like the way you handle yourself, like back and forth with written discourse. It kind of shows that you pride yourself on being able to do that. I'm curious, do you remember?
Yeah, I have no doubt I could work more on the live aspect of it, but and I look forward to doing that. But as far as written discourse goes, I do very much admire people who can really make a very detailed, nuanced kind of case about something. That's definitely something.
Definitely. And nuanced, would you say nuanced and detailed? Something else that you do very well is besides the nuance and appropriate detail, obviously there's a logical flow, but the other one I think is the most impressive, to bring this all together, is when someone asks or pushes in a certain way, being able to identify what's going on, like the situation, and what the right thing is to do from there, very pithily. But to be able to know how to do it pithily, you'd actually have to be able, which you do very well, like, what's called reading comprehension? Understanding what you're reading. It always kind of shows when you respond back that, like, you understand what's going on here, and it doesn't have to be necessarily detailed where it's very lengthy. It's just, like choices. Choices made.
Yeah, like, actually, maybe detail isn't the right word, actually, that I'm looking for specifically. It's more of like a kind of just so.
Yeah, you make very good choices.
Like, yeah. Saying just the right thing to get the right action.
Is that something that came from family or from authors you liked or teachers? I'm curious where you're...
Probably came from a variety of things. Not so much family. My family is quite different than me.
I was wondering.
At least my immediate family. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like.
Do you remember
did I...
when it started? Where you started thinking of yourself in those terms or getting noted by other people like, oh, he can express his thoughts very well?
Well, I like to read a lot as a kid. I mean, I read a lot of Niji's authors, Naiji and Nijai.
I remember you said that you read the Aragon series.
Yeah.
And that's like about
that's a
dragons,
really
right?
good one. I love that book. Those books by Naiji Christopher Paolini.
We've always had a strong interest in philosophy, for example. Do you remember, because you basically, another thing besides that you do a good job at it, you also have a style about you with
Yeah,
kind of
that's kind of what I was thinking
style.
about. Like, okay, when I write my best, I feel like it just kind of flows out of my fingers, or just flows. Like I'm not really even doing it so deliberately anymore. And that's something I think I learned a little bit, both just from reading a lot of very talented Nijez authors and also very complex philosophers.
Nice.
But it's very difficult to explain.
No, it makes total sense. I'm tracking. I'm also just the reason I'm asking more questions, Mitchell, is not because what you said wasn't like, aha, great. It actually makes me think another question, which is, you said you're different than your immediate family.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Do you remember where? So at some point, I mean, if it's a wrong statement, you let me know. But it seems like you had to have been impressed by that kind of manner of doing things because you've been doing it for so long. Like philosophy, was that just something that you got into reading on your own?
I don't think of how I got into philosophy. You know, what's funny is when I was a kid, I mean, I always used to be into math and science to some degree, and like video games and stuff. But actually learning about this is kind of sad, typology. I learned a lot about some of the when I thought I was like a subserve. Some of the figures who are associated with those types, they're really not, and most of them really aren't those mojos anyway, so it's not really relevant. But you know, I actually, that sort of introduced me to philosophy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's nothing. I think that's totally cool. I mean,
not literally, but like just, you know, when you're learning what your Myers-Briggs type is, which it's not, but you all these famous names and stuff, and it's so identity focused, like it's like these mazoots, and you try and like almost be the mazoot. So,
yeah, sure. I'm curious though, the style of writing that you have though, it seems like the skill level you're at doing it, that you were into writing your thoughts like that way before getting into philosophy. And
probably came more from fiction first. I don't read as much fiction anymore, but like more fantastical, like fantasy, sci-fi, Star Wars, very into Star Wars. Star Wars is like a big thing. I'd actually written short stories and stuff. I've done role-playing games with my friends.
Okay, so then one more question there then. So would you say perhaps it was the early fiction writing?
That might be. I might be able to trace the origin more to that, and just kind of the charged story element. I just kind of dove into that, and that's a good outlet for creative expression for me.
Sure. Gotcha. That's one thing that can really help Naiji to power their own personal expression, is if they can think upon why they have the personal expression that they have now, whatever it is. Whatever level and style they have now, why? And when you work it back, you realize the power that like that song had on you, Ben. The power of those stories that they had on you, Mitchell. And that tells you, oh, words can have that. If your ideas are,
it puts me in a different mode. Like I'm suddenly in like a spirit forming mode. That's probably how I would describe it. It just I'm just, the words just come from me. I'm not even creating them consciously.
Very cool. One thing to kind of throw into the mix on that is that there are multiple ways of coming at personal expression. You can use them to bonus stack each other, kind of like those video games where you go to one stage to get a bonus power to go back to another area and unlock something you couldn't get to before. Is that when you naturally sound off, you'll have to learn to write. If you naturally write first, you'll have to learn to sound off what you write. And there's other things like that besides as well. So a third element is rhythm, speaking to rhythm. So speaking to rhythm, speaking your own words, and then writing and editing what you have, those are all parts of the personal expression. And you can come into it any way at all because you need all elements. Anyone else? I'm sure so. Like Glenn, yourself, do you remember any kind of personal expression any venue that you found impressive? Just my spirit say that noting this is helpful. One, to kind of realize your journey.
I kind of want to think about it more just because you've asked me these questions. I feel like I'm not really representing it as best I could.
Yeah, but you gave us some good information. But it is good to delve into, Mitchell. It really is. Because
my memory's foggy.
Mine is really foggy.
Yeah. So I really have to
but I find if you do what I'm doing here, I'm kind of not doing memory, Mitchell. I'm glad you brought it up.
Are there any like motivational videos that you like, Mitchell? Like, because I get that a lot from motivational videos. There's often like speeches, in those videos. There's
Yes,
often, like,
actually, I'm sure there is.
I tend to get a lot of I tend to get hit a really positive way by videos like that, because they usually have a compilation of powerful personal expression that's very philosophical and tends to resonate with a lot of Naiji.
That's a very good point. No, and as far as like the memory thing, I know it's more than memory. Maybe memory is like a part of it, but I guess more like story.
Oh yeah.
And which Nai can relate to maybe more, both Nai and Phi.
What I was talking about Mitchell, as far as like the question I was asking you, it's something I do with myself a lot, and I have serious memory issues. Is I was actually working with levers, like chiropractic, because myself a lot of times I go like from my past, I can't remember any details at all most of the time, but I can ask my spirits, was I feeling this, or did I like that? And I can sometimes get like I stand on myself. And I can kind of go, oh, that must have been where I came from. It's hard to explain, but I don't really remember. I kind of like just like I read a lot of books. I must have actually done. It's weird. It's one of the reasons why I like actually investigating like movies that I was watching, like I'm doing now, like at like the time. Like interesting. I was watching a lot of such and such kind of movies at that time. I must have been doing this. Anyway, it's something you can do.
It's like a kind of dialectic of your spirits that helps.
Yeah.
Relive your story.
Totally.
I could probably do that more. Just my head's unfocused right now.
Oh, no worries. Glenn, how about yourself?
Okay. So for me, I remember lots of different things. I guess you could say. One thing that I feel like I want to say though is, I feel like articulating is an interesting thing, because we're speaking mainly in terms of articulating through words, and I totally understand like that's being able to say what it is that you mean, say what it is that you're feeling. I guess that's really important. But I also have like movies, or example, or TV shows or something like that. There's certain scenes where there's no speaking whatsoever.
Yeah, and I get a lot of that with instrumental music. Like, I really like the personal expression of instrumental music. So that's another thing.
Yeah, so it does not have to be words. The main thing, particularly for Naiji, is it needs to have moods that have structure. If it can create moods upon command, often we use words. You say certain words, which you believe, and you can't help it.
Yeah,
but anything where you can do that, that's personal expression for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what I'm trying to get at here exactly is, there's sometimes you can like I don't know if you guys have watched The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. It's the movie with those three, where the three of them, they kind of get together in this one area, and they have to like you take each other out, basically. There's a lot of communicating that's going on between all three of them, but they're not saying anything to each other. They're just giving each other looks, and they're just, you see the one guy's hand move towards his gun, and then the other guy looks at him, and then he moves his hand away from the gun, so that not to draw too much attention to himself. There's communication going on there between those two people, between all three of them.
Absolutely. And
that's
so you brought up a great point. You brought up a nuance of, generally with the Naiji, it helps to vocalize, because that is the primary way the natural law has evolved humans to communicate. So it's very important to use as a Naiji. I'd recommend all Naiji be able to vocalize to some degree, but writing the words down is another form that's not technically vocalized, it's written, but it works. But as Glenn was saying, it can be music. It can also be the eyes. The important thing, like I said, is that it is mood with structure for Naiji. So if you take, I'll take a Naiji, for example, here. Robert De Niro. In the movie, I think he's a taxi driver. He's looking in the mirror, the classic line, you looking at me? You looking at me? You must be looking at me. No one else here. You're looking at me. Okay. Two things. One, those are very simple words that don't really mean that much. Also, he takes significant pauses between them. So the scene is longer than it takes, noticeably, than just to say those words. So most of what he's saying, and if you notice his character, he's most happy about what? How he's saying them. He keeps saying them until his attitude, his body language, his eye contact with the him in the mirror, he likes it. That's how you say, I'm that guy. Right? He kind of feels out what kind of guy he is by saying these simple words, but he adds attitude until he gets the attitude like that. That's the right attitude. So it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't have to be words, but the whole purpose is to find out who you are and to be it. And so the vocalizing helps quite a bit because humans have such a natural affinity for it and it can do so much range. But sometimes it can get in the way. You're right.
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. I was just thinking about that in that words are very, very important, and they need to be mastered. Being able to write them, being able to say them with the kind of proper energy that needs to be brought to it. But sometimes, you can talk too much. Like if you're like with somebody in a romantic sense, and you're gonna like, kiss them or something, you can't be talking too much. You gotta just be able to read the situation and just
right. But see, again, that's why it's all about personal expression. Because let's say that you're with someone who's a an intimate partner, possibly you're hoping, is that the words get in the way. But personal expression is not about words. It's about expressing. So, for example, do you touch them? Not. Where? Do you give eye contact? Do you laugh? Do you keep a serious face? Those are all choices. You make these choices, and as you do, you say what you're about. Right, everything about you, the way your body language, all of that, it's kind of saying how you do this ritual. And it's very, very important is to kind of like pick rituals that are important to you as an IG, and then like that's how I do that. That's how I roll on that ritual. And like I said, a lot of times in classic like some Nijez movies, the Nijai might be looking at the Naiji to see how you roll, and they'll just very purposefully walk to a certain table, smile to a certain person, and walk out in a certain way. No words, but the way they did it, who they were nice to, who they ignored, all of it, the confident way they strolled past the cool kids like they weren't even there. All of that was saying how you roll in that ritual. No words need to be spoken. Speaking of which, my favorite comics ever, I don't like G.I. Joe much. I mean like Snake Eyes because he's a ninja. I mean like ninjas. Anyway, there's one comic that was just him, all about him, and they didn't have any words. And it was genius. It was genius because he just defined himself by things he did and how he did them without saying anything. You're like, man, Snake Eyes is a badass.
Yeah. But I want to also answer your question though. That was kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but
please go ahead.
I do remember. It's actually a little not so. It's not so like happened like a really long time ago, but it was just sort of like something that happened more recently, not necessarily like this, like a few months ago, but like maybe like a year or two ago. But we have a cleaning lady that comes sometimes every now and then, and what I noticed about her is that she has no problem just being able to just hum and sing some of the things that are on her mind, and very, very, I don't want to say nonchalantly, but she's just sort of like very confident with being able to do so. And I don't know, like that to me, it's something like that kind of stands out. Is something like it made me feel like, whoa, that's kind of impressive because it's like singing in front of, it's kind of like something that I personally don't necessarily feel like I want to do in front of people, but she was all obviously.
I don't either, but
like I said, you don't have to. It can be whatever form allows you to express what you're about. That's the main thing. The form itself does not matter. It's that whatever form it is, you're like, yes, that does say what I'm about.
Yeah. But like her being able to express those kinds of emotions and tones and like how she was feeling and stuff through singing, even though it was like a happy song, it's like it made me question like
It's funny, like what.
it was really
I'm sorry,
impressive.
I'll let you finish.
It was really impressive because it was like that makes me wonder if I could do that myself. Like it was like that. It kind of like put me on the spot. Like she could do it. Why not me? Like yeah.
Like anything you feel like conflicted about saying, but you know you want to say it, it's probably worth doing at some point, you know? Like
Yeah.
like even if like that's not where you want to start, maybe doing something that's slightly easier, but you still feel nervous about. I don't know. That seems to be the way that's most effective.
While we're here, Ben, did you say something a little bit about maybe some earlier influences already?
Yeah, I talked about Naruto, I think.
Okay.
That was actually a pretty big influence on me when I was like 10 years old. But
Okay, good.
but it's not happening. I mean, it's something I've always looked back on.
Definitely. I want to kind of then start with you then the next my round of questioning because that's going to pass. I want to look at the present now. What do you think of just your thoughts in general on where your personal expression is now? Just your awareness of it, how you like to do it, in what ways?
My personal expression or the personal expression influences on me or
No, where you are right now, kind of like as a natural law druid bard on IGR, voicing, say like you did today, that debating, writing things down in real time versus taking longer. Are there other things that you like to express yourself besides those? Anything kind of, where's your personal expressioning on your character sheet right now? There's no right or wrong. I'm just kind of curious.
Besides, like, I write journal entries to myself every day, but I don't know, to a certain extent, like I've been requiring that I do it like one day, but it feels like I'm not really putting much energy into it. I'm kind of like talking about normal stuff.
And let me frame it. I don't just feel like you should feel like you have to explain like the amount of work you're doing. And if you want to put that content in, that's great.
I did want to talk about that.
Please continue, but I'll just let you know that the angle of my question is simply where you feel about your ability levels.
Where I feel about my ability level?
You know what I mean? Like, regardless of like how much journaling you're doing, like how do you feel about your ability to express yourself written?
I feel,
but you can talk also about like
I do significantly. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm better at expressing myself written or in person, but I'd like to overall improve my abilities in personal expression, both written and in person. I notice if I spend enough time on written, I can make it really beautiful and poetic, but like I often notice that it takes me a really long time to get that, you know? And I think that if I did this more, it would become faster, it would become easier, it would flow better, it wouldn't take as long. And also the speed is really important because if you're in an encounter, and you're facing a person, like you have to have it at that moment. If you remember it later, it won't matter because you weren't in the moment. So I think that really it's that yes, I mean I could make like a really beautiful essay, but it can take a really long time, and I think improving, I want to improve that by doing this more.
Gotcha.
I think rehearsal helps with that. Like if you go really deep into something, like it might take you a while to be able to like really say something the way that you really want to be able to say it. But if you do that and you're like, okay, I feel really good about the way that I express this kind of concept or idea, you'll remember that, and then you'll be able to get to that point faster next time, and you'll be able to do it. I think, just basically faster. And so you won't feel, and then you'll be able to apply that kind of.
And I think overall it probably will be more profound too. Like.
Yeah. Because you'll learn lessons as you go deeper and deeper into it.
Yeah, you'll get information you didn't have before, and it will come faster. So it's both.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I guess. I'll just throw it out there. The other question I was going to ask was then, is there anywhere you particularly, for all of you, are looking to maybe take your personal expression to some areas that you have thought you'd like to have more in your character sheet? Obviously, Ben, this is a new area you opened
other
up.
people, or just your own personal voicing?
Just for yourself, I was curious. Like, I mean, so this is new for you, Ben, and I'm curious if there's something you'd like to be able to go with it.
The two things that come out to me are, I guess, spoken word style music and scenes from TV shows and movies I've liked. Are the
Interesting.
two main areas I'm thinking of. Because I don't really, I mean, there are other avenues, but like, I mean, like, I'm majoring in computer science, so I guess like writing code is personal expression. But like, unless I'm making an artistic project
Right.
with that's presentable to you guys, it's not really going to mean anything to you. So I think those are probably the two that make the most sense. Or like, I can experiment with some other music, lyrics, and TV shows and movies, scenes, anime, whatever.
I'm curious, Mitchell, yourself. Your career, your track, what you're doing right now, does it require much in the way of that? As far as, do you have to like write or any kind of a form where you have to express, or is it mainly formulas?
Both. Yeah, I do quite a bit of both. So, yeah, personal expression is definitely important to me in a lot of ways, and I probably would like to even work on my artistic personal expression as well. As far as it's just exactly where I want to take it. It's hard to say, but I do always want to get better at just being able to express my viewpoints on things. Obviously, I've got the math, computer science thing too.
Well, it's one thing I thought has come to me at different times is that with your forum and YouTube responses, and also Glenn a lot with your Mojo reading travelogues, is maybe making them into something. I know at some point it'd be kind of cool to maybe like make some ebooks or something out of that. I'm curious what you guys would like, because we mainly made up your content, but you guys write a lot of good stuff. So I mean, Ben, it's coming from your space. We kind of need
I
to
often,
get
I often
Facebook.
notice, like, when
give it some form sometime. I don't know, like, but like obviously.
Forum. Yeah, I see what you mean. I've considered that before myself, by the way.
You answer a lot of questions that come up repeatedly and are also often very controversial and provocative, and you handle it very well. I don't know, maybe someday we could kind of put that into an ebook form, because your voice on that's a very good voice. So
No. I have a lot of other things I plan to express at some point, but I'm working up to that.
Of course, totally. But
yeah, you do make some good forum posts, Mitchell. Like every once in a while, you'll post something that's really insightful that we haven't really covered much on, and bring some interesting discussion to the table.
And all the back and forth I've seen you do, like in the YouTube comments, I think people, I myself would come away from with a very positive view of the person who was saying your stuff. I was like, hey, person, I like the way they put things out there. In fact, sometimes I'm like, that's a way that I would use myself, because I like the way you turn it. So that's a great gift you have to bring that to the table.
Yeah, you give these really like in-depth arguments, that really just like obliterate stupid typology crap in the comment section. Like I'll often show up and I'll make some quick points, but you like really go like full on and write paragraphs and stuff. It's really cool.
And also, and sometimes even the shorter ones, the weighing, like a very good weighing of what the person's doing and handing it back. I noticed they can't handle that. Even if it's just like short, because you're not even
yeah.
mean about it.
I like to give like really like I like to give like really like quick, like just really impactful remarks like on their character
That could be
and how they're
good.
approaching things.
those are two kinds of personal expression that way. Actually, that's an interesting thing about mathematics. Actually, Nijai Michael Attai, who was on my quiz, is talking about this sometimes, and this is something mathematicians could definitely work on. Mathematicians aren't all very good at more artistic personal expression because one thing you train to do is you want to express as much truth in as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Economy.
Right.
It's all about economy. Now, that is an art too in a way, for sure.
It has its beauty. It does have beauty. Sure.
Yeah, and really, it's interesting because in mathematics you're also taking things step by step by step. So skipping steps and getting to the, saying a really impactful point is not really as allowed. Like I'm doing, I'm taking a math/logic class right now. It's like I'm like, wow, why can't I just skip this? But to prove it, you have to show everything.
Indeed.
They have to do it in a certain way.
Yeah,
And a lot of great mathematicians and logicians they see themselves, I don't know what that really means, but like as autistic, because like they have to express it in that way. But really, I think they probably could actually work on their abilities and get a lot better if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And there are many who are much better at writing.
Yeah, I feel
Einstein,
like
Bertrand Russell.
I don't know. I feel like academia, like people in academia, can just be less of hard asses in general about a lot of things. I mean, I understand it's necessary for certain things, but we don't need to be hard asses about everything, okay?
Oh, and
Very true.
some of us too that we were talking about how the process, besides it feels empowering on what you're conveying at that time, it relieves you. It opens you up for your spirits to give you more. And I'm curious, Glenn, if you've experienced that, because you do a really good job on your travel logs.
I think a lot of people like reading those.
Yeah, and you express a lot about what you have going on. And I know myself, when I do that for things I do in my life, I find that I perform better when I kind of talk myself through what I'm doing. Besides just it felt good to express what I felt in that experience, I find that in future experiences I'm more developed by kind of traveloguing what I'm doing.
So, I just want to understand what the question is like.
I guess basically is I'm sure that you were having this experience, and so I was looking for perhaps an anecdotal experience from yourself of the principle I was talking about, where doing the personal expression, it feels empowering to say what you believe and have going on, but just doing it makes more space in your apparatus for your spirits to give you, it's like on your mind, and like speaking about what your experience is, it like frees up space for you to get more.
Yeah. Definitely. When it comes to like expressing what's on your mind, yeah. Why? Because it's like it's on your mind and it wants to be tapped on, and it wants to be, you want to pull that out of you, because it's like I keep thinking about this. Like every time I close my eyes, or every time I find myself in a certain moment, it just pops into my head again, whatever this thing is. And then you need to understand, what is it that it's trying to do? What is this thing that's inside of me? And then you express it, and then you put it on paper to try and understand it. And then when that happens, once you're able to sort of do that, then it leads into other things that are also connected to that. And then you would not have been able to get to those other things if it were not for you to have addressed the first thing initially.
Yeah,
so it just kind of
rattling. You're saying, yeah, it's like it keeps taking up this rattling, swirling up space until you express it somehow.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah,
it's very distracting. It's very distracting. You can't have new thoughts because those thoughts keep popping up behind you, tapping on the shoulder all the time.
That could be tough, I think, for Naiji in general. When we're forced to do a certain work regime, as we're doing it, Sines, we'll have these thoughts about it that we want to actually get more into it, but we can't because we got to do this other stuff. I experience that at school a lot.
Sure.
Sometimes I call myself a procrastinator. I'm really actually not that much of a procrastinator. It's just that I get these. I have these times where I really want to go off and explore my own interests, and I feel like a need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I'm not procrastinating. That's actually more my peak pathway. I would actually more explore what I'm personally interested in. Then I would get to.
It may appear procrastinated to the outsider, but actually, technically, you are conflicted. You are a conflicted hero. Ah, yes, the Najee life.
I just wanted to say, just real quick, that when it comes to the post that Mitchell does, yeah, I think there was something that you guys are all hitting on. Coach mentioned with like the weighing and stuff. It's the canvassing. It's really being able to understand what the situation, really knowing like everything that's going on, and then making the right kind of move. That first initial sort of like, okay, this is what's going on, in that like perspective of like, this is what I need to do, and then that very first step is always usually correct. This is something that I've noticed a lot too with Mitchell, and I've noticed this a lot with Ademus as well in his own way. And it's very impressive, and it's something that I am working on actually myself in my own way, because I tend to sometimes fumble when it comes to that first step sometimes, or somewhere along the line, and it kind of leaves me not really wanting to get into debates or anything like that myself personally, because I'm like, I'm just going to make a fool out of myself. But it's something that like I find really inspiring when I see that done right, and you know, I want to be able to do that too, like really well. But I feel like I'm on when it comes to like the travelogues and stuff, I feel like I'm on a mission of, because sometimes I have certain ideas, just like the Nai and the Ji of it, is like I know what I want to say, but it's trouble sometimes being able to say it, and that's the Ji of it, like, you know, summoning the courage, and that's sort of like the Ji aspect of what I need to develop, being able to allow myself to just be like, okay, just do it, you know, and that kind of thing. Be courageous.
I'm thinking of Shia LaBeouf, his speech. Just
yeah. So I relate to that, but then there's also the other aspect of it, which is the Nai, which is like I don't really know what it is inside of me that I want to say in the first place, and that's sort of like requires me to sort of like really go deep and like figure it out, like what is it that's, you know, what is this thing that I'm trying to express. And so I find myself wrestling with both aspects of those every now and then. Recently it's been more of the Nai, because I'm really trying to understand, like, what am I really trying to say here? Like, what am I missing that I'm not really getting at here? But they're both important, and they're both things that I'm working on, as I'm sure, you know, everybody is. It's part of this hangout, and you know, everyone else as well.
Definitely.
It's interesting, though.
Indeed. That brings up something else. If you just talk about the courage element, and also about it doesn't have to be words or even like something necessarily artistic, is just making certain moves. As I mentioned, one thing, like you're in a certain room and you talk to a person that maybe is considered a pariah, but there's nothing really wrong with them, that's just a cultural thing, and you make that move. You could just be asking them something simple, but the fact that you broke that space and were warm to that person, that says a lot about who you are and what you're about and how you think things should be. And that relates, for example, to Eagle Eye. I think did a post just recently, talking about how he felt bad about how his Modry had been going, but then he got to a higher place about what's really important, and now he's in a much better place with his spirits. And the Modry is improving as well along with it, but that's not the primary point. The primary point is his spirits, connection with them, and they're like, I approve you being brave enough to get back on that and stay on. That's the thing. You keep getting on that ride, the truth ride, and you just keep getting on no matter how many times you get thrown. That character is what makes the greatness. And then manifestations of greatness, high Mojo reading score, great oration ability, you know what I mean, all those kind of, those come from being a certain kind of person. Being a certain kind of person as best you can, that's the main thing. Your spirits, they'll recognize that.
Yeah, that was a tough quiz, man.
It was.
Destroyed.
That was really interesting. I didn't expect it to be so tough. Well, I did in certain ways, but
Nobody did.
it's funny because most of the samples were Najez, but it's like
They
you
were,
didn't think
yeah.
they would be Najez, right?
I didn't
like,
think they were. Yeah.
It's like a lot of those voice actors in that the dude who the father of the Java programming language. You
And
know,
all
I
the
mean,
coders
it's like,
and stuff.
yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
these aren't music artists and actors and shit.
And then one was the other one, that Xenai. Both of them, the Xenai lady and the Vaiji lady had really cool, awesome riffs, but ones also had
throw you.
unusual and really high level. I was like, whoa.
The Vaiji poet.
Yeah.
You know.
It was cool. But I was like,
we had that like young Vaiji journalist, and I thought the drone, but yeah, I mean, we had the young Vaiji journalist who had pretty good knee and looked like he was kind of more of a progressive kind of dude.
I can say
that's also difficult.
he also had good Zydus patch.
Yep. Yeah, that was true as well.
It was a really great quiz, though. It really made me think and really question, afterwards, like, what is this? Like so many of my weaknesses became really like known to me. Like, oh, this is like something that is. It was always there, and I always knew that it was there. But I was like, I don't really need to focus on trying to fix that right now. But it's like made me painfully aware of so many different things about myself. Like, you need to get on this. I was like, oh, like.
I feel you, man. I'm working at 20K now, and like I feel really good that I have that. At the same time, like there's a bunch of bubbles. I need to get on them. I want that. Like for example, like modeling is never been something really into, but I'm tired of like Xenai Zaini. I'm like, so now I want to tackle that bubble. There's a few others like that too. Of like, okay, we're gonna have a long conversation now.
Like they need to they did something wrong and you need to like get them.
Really, to myself, I've been like, okay, I've not canvassed that as much as I need to. So okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But you're right. You kind of get like
Like, you need to get angry, right? In order to like really do something.
Because it's effort that for some reason wasn't being done.
Yeah.
And usually that's one of three reasons. You didn't conceptualize it right. You can see it, but you won't act on it because you're scared.
Mm.
Or you see the right thing and you're ready to do it, but for some reason the world's being goofy and is in your way. So they're kind of like the three main reasons. And the first one's kind of like, think. And so that's what it is. You're like, I need to really think on this. Think. And you would take a break. And you get angry. No, you don't take a break from thinking. You have more thinking to do.
Yeah.
Because basically laziness of thought. That's kind of the first angry one that you like. The ability to scrutinize the obvious that Nige are really good at. A lot of it is just overcoming mental laziness that gets other people. So you kind of get on yourself. Don't
Not taking things for granted.
Not taking things for granted. Don't take shortcuts.
That's how Nige comes at things. It always relooks at it.
Totally.
Knowing that you got to do something.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And the third, other people, you can't do it. You're like, nope, this is happening.
Yeah. Or there's just like not enough media. It's like I want to be able to do this particular bubble, but there's no media on this bubble. It's like, world, get your shit together.
I know, right? How I feel.
Oh yeah, like Japanese voice actors, like there's no media on them, but I want to read them. So I turn to English voice acting, and even though I tend to not watch, dubs as much, it's what I'm interested in, so I want to make this work.
Totally.
So.
Glenn, you're talking about like the anger, like the classic, like the drama anger, which comes from like human versus human versus this, human versus that. What you're talking about, it's like human versus the unknown. I feel like give me the media. And it's like. There's nothing even, like there's no person to be upset at. It's just the lack of the information I need.
Yeah, it's sort of like like in storytelling, you have the different antagonists. It's usually man versus man, man versus. Or usually, it can usually be like man versus nature, or it could just be like man versus something that's going. Yeah, like something like nature, I guess. Or like the lack of, or something that's like environmental or something. Like it's not like you're on an island. It's not you fighting against anybody specifically, or maybe there is like an enemy that's actually like physically trying to like a grizzly bear or something like that. but it's just like the fact that you're there, like Naked and Afraid. Like you have to deal with the elements.
Elements.
Be able to deal with all this sort of stuff and just be like, what am I gonna do? Like, it's just, yeah. So you can't get angry at the environment. You have to get angry, like, at becoming better at being able to handle the environment, because the environment's not going to change.
Yeah, unless your anger at the environment is channeling to making you become better. Because sometimes I have kind of like thoughts I know don't make any sense, but I summon them anyway, just because it motivates me to do the right thing,
Right.
Like the fireman's trying to stop me, man, so I got to do this. I got to show them by doing the right thing, So.
Yeah, or like a fireman that has to deal with the fire. You have to kind of get angry at it, right? Like
Yeah.
a little bit, not to the point where you're like doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, but you're like.
That's the element you're talking about, is actually choosing the right thing, because it's not is the anger right or wrong. It's what's it to be used for. So like with the fire, it's not actually that you're angry at fire. You're angry at the dangerous situation that's putting things at risk. Because fire is part of nature that really getting angry at it doesn't change the way it works or operates or anything else. That's just pointless. But situations, such as things burning, situations can be changed. So if a situation is upsetting you, that's a proper use of anger. Like, I am angry that child is in danger from the fire. Not the fire, the motif.
You like the context.
The motif can be changed. My anger can change this motif. It's not going to change the nature of fire. That's stupid.
Yeah. Fire is neither good nor bad. Actually,
Yeah, it's just fire.
It's just fire. Yeah. It can be done good. Yeah.
Sometimes as you do get angry at things that most people think you shouldn't, and they do end up changing the fundamental nature of it.
Yeah.
Fire is probably not one that's going to happen.
I know, right?
Fire's not going to listen to you. It's just going to keep being fire.
The present state of technology could be one where most people would just be like, well, that's just the way it is. But
Right.
no, it's actually something you can change.
It can be affected. It can be influenced. Very cool. All right, so I think it was a great discussion, and so the plan will be next time for Nijez Temple, we will continue this, and we will.
I'm gonna recite that again.
You are reciting again with the Nijez there, and then we'll discuss things, having Nijai there to bounce back on and hear what they have to say about all these personal expression things we discussed. I'm sure they have a lot to say on the topic. Look forward to it.
Awesome, that sounds great. It'd be cool to, like, if we could keep doing this, like, I don't know, like we could all present stuff, and I don't know.
Definitely, and just know the track 2 is basically a personal expression where the
I really want to level up to track 2 to get to L10, so I can do that.
That's right, because L 11 through 20 is basically.
Then I can talk. I can say whatever I want. I can say it how I want. I can.
Yep.
So.
Definitely.
It's interesting, Coach. You kind of brought this idea to Ben for him to do this, right? I mean,
no.
I think that's not...
two things. I've always been working with you guys on track 2 because it's so important to be able to personally express what you're about, and it's always been, first 10 levels of platform for everyone. After that, you do your own thing. So that's always been ongoing, and I've been encouraging you guys to that, but not pushing too hard. But then Ben specifically asked about how could he strengthen his connection to his spirit dialogue. And so this exercise is one of the best I've ever found to increase the intensity and frequency of one's spirit dialogue. So that's where he came from. He asked me about that, and I offered this as an exercise for that.
Oh, I see, okay.
Thank you. I found that this is really useful, and it taught me a lot about myself and what I want to be aiming towards in the future with my spirit.
Excellent. I look forward to it. I felt honored being an audience to it. Thank you.
Yeah, really awesome.
All right, so everyone have a wonderful evening, and I'll be seeing you all on Sunday.
Awesome. Sounds great. Have a
All
great
right,
night,
good
everyone.
stuff.
Yep.